Hello students, we are going to discuss about social mobility in this session. So this is one of the most important topic and you will get a direct question from social mobility. Okay, so what is social mobility? As its name indicate, even before also we have discussed, when we discussed about the types of stratification system, we have discussed about open system and closed system of stratification, and how we decided or how we understood open system or closed system. It is all related to the chances and avenues or sources of social mobility. At that time itself we have briefly mentioned about what is social mobility. Okay, so what do you mean by mobility? Movement of people from one position to other. So one strata to other, like you are born as a upper class and then can you become a lower class? Similarly, lower class, basically you born as a poor, can you become rich? You born as a rich, can you become poor? So there is a movement possible, right? This is what you call a social mobility. Okay, so movement between strata. It could be upward movement, it could be downward movement. So we are actually talking about vertical mobility. There is a horizontal mobility also. I'll talk about that when we discuss about the types of social mobility. But sociologically, what is important for us is vertical mobility. Okay, again I'm stressing this point. It's a very important topic and you will get question for sure. Every alternate year if you see, there will be a question. Even if the theories are asked from this particular chapter, still you can find a question on social mobility. Okay, it could be social mobility, or it could be social stratification and mobility, or it could be avenues of social mobility, or it could be hindrances of social mobility. Connected to mobility, one question is for sure. Okay, and once we're done with this session, you don't want to read anything else for this particular topic. We have done it and we will be doing it completely, and if this question is asked, it's a must attempt question. You have a very good note with you and we are going to discuss in and out of the social mobility. Everything we will cover. Okay, so first of all you need to understand the basically this is nothing but the movement between strata. Then what you need to understand is what is the need for studying social mobility. See, the need for studying or the use of studying social mobility is actually you can understand the stratification pattern also in the society. Okay, so you can also understand whether the society is open or closed, or you can understand what type of stratification exists in society. And when you're studying social mobility, if you see there are more avenues of social mobility, what does that indicate? The society is based on open stratification. That means movement is possible. For example, class system. You born as a poor, you can become a rich. So if more avenues are present to become rich, like in terms of education, employment opportunities, etc., it's an open system. Similarly, like if there are less avenues, when you're studying about social mobility, if there are less avenues, it indicates a closed system of stratification. For example, caste system. You born as a Brahmin, you end as a Brahmin. You born as a Shudra, you end as a Shudra. Okay, so if effectively the study of social mobility will also help you to understand the types of stratification system. So to understand stratification system which present in a society, it is essential to study social mobility also, because whether avenues are there or not. Secondly, once you know or once you study the social mobility, you can also understand the whole nature of society also, because more number of avenues indicates a modern society. Okay, you can see in modern society avenues are more. You can be rich easily, you can do all these works, education, avenues are more and more possible and available in modern society, whereas in traditional society avenues are less. So to understand the whole nature of society also, the study of mobility will actually help you. If the avenues are more, it indicates a modern society. If avenues are less, that indicates a traditional society. So what I'm saying is, what I've told you in simple terms, mobility is the movement of people between strata. Okay, so can people move between strata vertically? Like you born as rich, can you be a poor person, or you born as a poor, you can be a rich person. So this is what you mean by social mobility. Studying social mobility, why it is important? Because you can understand the stratification pattern first of all, whether it is open or closed. Secondly, you can understand the whole nature of society, whether the society is traditional or modern. In this context, now can I say that social mobility is an essential aspect of transition from traditionalism to modernism? Yes, modernism shows more social mobility, or in modern societies you will find more social mobility. So mobility is essential for modernity or modern societies. So mobility is an essential precondition or prerequisite for any modern societies. Any modern society will give you a lot of opportunities for mobility. Okay, so I hope you understood. Now there are different types of mobility. when we talk about mobility, okay, so mobility means, or basically social mobility. So when you talk about social mobility means it's basically movement between strata, like this or like this. It could be upward movement, it could be downward movement. Now see, in that context I can say it is either horizontal or vertical. Now what do you mean by horizontal? Horizontal means, let's say you are a manager in company A, and you will be leaving this company and you are joining this company B as manager again, or you are a manager in this region A, okay, and the same company is transferring you to another region B, but your position is not changing. So only the geographical location is changing here, and this is not relevant from sociological point of view at this point of time now. Okay, so here we are talking about transfers, but when it comes to vertical mobility, we are talking about promotions, one step above, manager to managing director or clerk to manager. Okay, like that, you will go up to the top and you will also come down. So vertical mobility means it is the upward or downward mobility. It also indicates the positional change. Okay, so vertical mobility is more important for us. For example, you born as rich, you becoming poor. What is this? This is upward mobility. You born as a poor, you become, okay, this is downward mobility, and you born as a poor, you become rich. This is upward social mobility. Okay, so I hope you understood. So promotions will come under vertical mobility. You are a clerk and you're becoming manager, okay, or you are the son of a farmer and you're becoming an IAS officer. That's an upward mobility. You are a son of an IAS officer but you're becoming a clerk. That means it's a downward mobility. Okay, so I hope you understood. Similarly, when we talk about land reform, we can talk about land reform in the context of upward and downward mobility. Those peasants who got the land after the reform, they experienced an upward social mobility. They got the land. But those zamindars, so the landlords who lost the land, they experienced a downward social mobility. So here also you can explain upward and downward mobility in case of land reforms. So these are examples of mobility. Okay, so I hope you understood. This is a very simple topic. There is nothing to make it complicated. We have already done the theories. Okay, now one more thing that I want to tell you is, when we discussed about theories, at this point I have discussed about functional theories of stratification, and I've told you along with Marx we will cover the conflict theory of stratification, and along with Weber we will cover the Weberian theory of stratification. So there is no need to unnecessarily study it separately. Integrated approach is always good for sociology, not only for sociology, for anything. Even your prelims cum mains, integrated approach is always better for GS also. Okay, so here exactly the same is what we are going to do. Even when it comes to the chapter of politics and society, paper 1, paper 2, same chapter is there. We will combine it together. Similarly, religion and society, we will combine it from paper 1, paper 2. And again you can see social changes, paper 1, paper 2 I will combine. Family and kinship also paper 1, paper 2 combine. So once we done with the first 6 chapters or the first 5 chapters up to thinkers and stratification, then everything I'm going to combine. Even the work and economic life also we can combine it with industrialization etc. of the paper 2. Okay, so rest of the 5 chapters I will be combining it, or I'll be integrating it with paper 2. So this is going to be very easy for you, and we can cover sociology in, that's how I have courses with which you can cover sociology in 1 month. Okay, so otherwise I cannot do that because of this integration, but I'm guaranteeing you, you won't lose anything in that. Okay, everything will be covered, and that's the best approach. Unnecessary complication will not be there. Okay, so I hope you understood. Social mobility means movement of people. It could be upward or downward. It could be horizontal. That is not important here in sociology, like we are talking about transfers. Okay, promotions etc. is very important. Okay, so now when we talk about mobility, there are different types of vertical mobility. First of all, intergenerational and intragenerational. I'll explain this, then we will go to the PDF. Intergenerational means what? Inter-college festivals or inter-college cricket match. What does that mean? Between college, right? So here between generation mobility, like what I've told you before, between generation means son of a farmer becoming an IAS officer. So son of a farmer becoming an IAS officer. So this is between generation. there is a mobility, and it's an upward mobility, right? So I can say this as upward intergenerational mobility. Similarly, IAS officer's son is becoming a clerk. What is this? This is downward intergenerational. This is intergenerational, between generation, and between generation also upward and downward. Then what about intragenerational? Intragenerational is in our own lifetime. We have born as poor, we becoming rich, or we born as rich and we becoming poor. Okay, that's what it is all about, achievements of persons in his own lifetime. When we talk about land reform, we can discuss here. Land reform, it happens during the person's own lifetime, right? So those who lost the land, the landlords and the zamindars, they had a downward mobility. And those who got the land, the peasants, the landless, they experienced an upward mobility. And this happened during their lifetime. So whatever is actually happening in our lifetime, okay, during our course of life, that's what intragenerational mobility. Okay, so intergenerational, between generation, intragenerational, within the lifespan of the individual. So this is very simple. There is no need to have any doubt here. Then we can have objective and subjective social mobility. Objective and subjective. This name itself will tell you what is it. Objective social mobility means mobility which could be understood in terms of some objective criteria, like it could be quantified, some quantitative criteria, where we discussed about this objectivity and subjectivity in the discussion of positivism and non-positivism. So objectivity is dealing with quantitative data, subjectivity is dealing with qualitative data. Exactly the same here. Here objective mobility means you can understand in terms of some quantitative aspects, like income increased. So if I'm saying my income was, let's say, 1 lakh rupee, okay, so it was 1 lakh last year, now it is increased to 1.5 lakh. So what does this mean? I am experiencing a mobility here. Okay, so that is an objective mobility. In value terms, I can tell that there is a mobility. Okay, or income or education. Last year I had BA, now I am MA. So there is an increase, and that you can quantify, right? So education, occupation, all these are objective social mobility. You can quantify in terms of, you know, some aspects in numbers. And what about subjective social mobility? It is all about the perception. Even between, you know, IAS officer and a doctor, I may consider a doctor as superior. It's my perception. Or I am a doctor, I may consider myself as a superior, right? It's all about the perception of the individual. Or it can be the perception of the society also. Tomorrow you became an IAS officer. Imagine you became an IAS officer, but your neighbors are not valuing you. Nearby there is a doctor, so the neighbors are giving importance to this doctor. Actually, who is superior here? IAS officer is superior here. In the previous discussion, I have told you why the reason. There may be a value bias here, subjectivity is there, but why IAS officer is superior, I have told you, because of uniqueness and because of other positions are depending on the one in question. In that way, you can actually understand the functional importance of these two. But your neighbor may not accept you as important person. He may take a doctor as the important person. Okay, in that context, that is actually based on the perceptions of the people, or your own perception also. You may be a teacher and you consider yourself as supreme, or this job as supreme than an IAS officer or a doctor's job. So it's all about perception. Okay, so that's why subjectivity. Then there is another mobility, that is absolute and relative. Now what do you mean by absolute mobility? Absolute mobility means it's similar to absolute and relative poverty. Absolute poverty is understood in terms of poverty line. Then if you are below that poverty line, you are BPL, above poverty line, APL, right? So here also exactly the same way. Absolute mobility means you gain something, you experience a mobility. Okay, you lost something, you experience a mobility. So gaining something, upward mobility; losing something, downward mobility. Okay, so if you lose, there is a definite downward mobility. That is what absolute downward mobility. You lose something. Okay, now when it comes to relative mobility, it is like this. Let's suppose A and B, two people are there. Two people, both of them were, okay, A is a clerk and B is also a clerk. Now, after some time, B became a manager. Okay, so what is absolute mobility here? This is absolute mobility. Because there is a positional change, there is a promotion. So for B, what is the mobility for B? It is absolute. Now what about A? A did not lost anything. So we can't say in terms of absolute terms, A experienced a downward mobility. No, he remained the same clerk. but he experienced a relative downward mobility in comparison to B, even without losing anything. So even without losing anything, you can experience a downward mobility. That is what relative downward mobility. Otherwise, you have to lose money, or you have to lose something, or you have to be demoted. You should come down in the position. In all these ways only we are talking about downward mobility. But here he remain in the same position, same salary, everything is same, but he experienced a relative downward mobility. I hope you understood with this example itself. This is how poverty also we are explaining, right? If I have a phone, Samsung phone or an Oppo phone, okay, and some other person is having an iPhone, Apple phone, so this person will feel inferiority, right? That is what relative mobility, relative in poverty. Okay, relative poverty is nothing but it is showing inequality, okay, in relation to this person. That shows inequality. So here I hope you understood. The person B is experiencing an absolute upward social mobility, but the person A experiencing a relative downward social mobility. Why it is relative? Even though without losing anything, he is experiencing a downward mobility. Okay, then one more is there, that is one more mobility is this structural and circulation. Structural and circulation social mobility. Structural social mobility means, let's suppose you are part of an occupational structure. Let's suppose you are working in a bank. Okay, now this is a traditional setup. Okay, so you are doing all these paperworks and everything. Okay, now with time the technology is improved. So with the advancements in technology, what happened? Computerization happened. So you don't want to do all those hectic work that you have done earlier, and you can go to home much earlier also. So you experience a kind of mobility, or because of higher education you get, because of the training you get, you experience a mobility. So all these are already you are part of an occupational structure, and because of some improvement in technology or training or education, you experience some mobility. That is what structural social mobility. Circulation social mobility is very simple. You are not part of occupational structure, and when you join the occupational structure, you experience a mobility. That is what circulation occupational mobility. Okay, so structural means already part of occupation, and because of some improvements in technology, training, education, etc., then you get a mobility. Other one, circulation means you are not part of the occupational structure. When you join the occupational structure, you feel a mobility. Then one more is there, sponsored and contested mobility. Sponsored means that name itself will tell you it could be the mobility which is experienced because of some policy or support, like reservation programs of the government, right? The protective discrimination. So you can get some mobility. Contested means it is through open competition. There is no such support or anything. That names itself will tell you here. So we have discussed about intergenerational, intragenerational, no need to have any confusion, subjective, objective, absolute, relative, structural, circulational, and also sponsored and contested. These are 5 types of mobilities that you need to write in your paper. Apart from this, you don't want to write anything. Okay, so what is mobility and why mobility study is important, you need to write that, and then write about this 5 different types of mobility, and then we will talk about what are the avenues of mobility, like education, political power, economic system, culture. All these things we will discuss, and we will also talk about what are the hindrances, what are the practical constraints in achieving objectivity. So now what we can do is I'll explain the PDF now. Okay, and after that we will go to the avenues and hindrances. So if you have any doubt related to any discussion, as I've always told you, you can get in touch with me here. That's my Instagram ID, or you can join the Telegram channel. This is my Telegram channel, so Zia Safir. You'll get all my updates and videos over there. If you have any doubt, you can call me directly. This is my number, 9790-892-697 or 98955-77775. Or you can get in touch with me here, Zia Safir, that's my Facebook ID. Okay, and Zia IAS. Obviously you can get in touch with me in any of this, WhatsApp, message, Telegram, or anything. You can call also. So let's move to the PDF. Okay, social mobility can be broadly defined as a change in position of an individual or group in the society. So it's a change in position of an individual or group in the society, specifically in the context of stratification. So when it comes to stratification, it refers to movement of an individual or group from one strata to other. So from bottom to top or top to bottom. Okay. The study of social mobility is important in the light of the following points. Studying the nature of social mobility help us in understanding the nature of social inequality. So it helps us understanding the nature of social inequalities present in the society. Thus, indirectly, in order to understand social stratification, so if you need to understand social stratification, what you need to do? Understand social mobility. It is necessary to understand the patterns of social mobility. Okay, that means if more mobility chances are there means open system, less mobility chances, less avenues or sources means closed system. In this context, if the mobility is less, the system is considered as closed, like caste system. And if it is more, then the system is considered as open system, like class system. Social mobility also reflects a process of change in society. Ever increasing avenues of social mobility in a particular society indicate the existence of a more dynamic society. Yes, okay. This concept has also been used to know the nature of the whole society as well. I've told you more avenues indicates modern society, less avenues indicates traditional society. Less number of avenues indicates towards a traditional society, whereas more avenues indicate a modern society. In this context, social mobility is considered as an integral dimension of the process of modernization. So mobility is considered as an integral dimension of the process of modernization. So I hope you understood. Now let's move on to the types of social mobility. The movement of people can be understood in different ways, resulting in different types of social mobility. In terms of direction of movement, there are two types, vertical and horizontal. So vertical, you can say movement from one strata to other. Horizontal, movement within the same strata, manager to manager, clerk to clerk. It is a transverse, geographical change only. So here when we talk about vertical, upward social mobility, for example promotions. Downward social mobility, that means when business fails, etc. Okay, you can also talk about land reforms here. Now you don't worry about this example which I have written here. I will clarify it when we discuss about thinkers. Merton, I will clear it. Okay, so as of now I have just added one example over there. Just take it in that way only. Don't worry about this. And if you can remember, just remember it. Otherwise anyway you will remember it once we're done with Merton, for sure. Okay. Next, horizontal social mobility is more of geographical in nature, as in terms of status it is similar. Status is not changing as I have told you, okay, it is almost same. Sociologically, little stress is given to horizontal social mobility. Now types of social mobility. Social mobility is also seen at the level of family. In this context, two types of mobilities are defined. Intergenerational and intragenerational. We have discussed already. Intergenerational refers to the positional difference between two generations, like son of a clerk becoming an IAS officer. Here also upward and downward is possible. That's what I've written here. So you can also write the opposite here. IAS officer son becoming clerk. But you will not get all these time and space to write all these examples. One itself is enough. Okay. Intragenerational mobility. It is a see, examples are not important. Examples are just to substantiate your point. Everybody will tell you to add examples, case studies, etc. But examples and case studies alone will not be your answer. You have to make a point and substantiate that. Even if you are not using example, it's okay if the point is there. Okay, make the point and substantiating that point, you will use example. For example, when we study, when we read, comprehension, I'll always tell you, if you see my golden rules of reading comprehension, I always used to tell you, skip the example once you understood the main point which is made by the author. If you didn't understood the main point which is said by the author, then try to read example and try to understand through example. So here also, to substantiate your point, you will make one example. That's it. Beyond that, don't ever try to give you more and more examples for one particular point. You may be knowing more example, but don't try to fit into your answer. Okay, that is a waste of time and waste of space also. Don't do that. So intragenerational mobility is the mobility experienced by a person during his own lifetime. Like land reforms, during this poor people got more land and rich people lost their lands. Like choices, all these are upward and downward. Intragenerational is possible, like we have discussed. Apart from this, other types of social mobility has also been defined to better understand the mobility pattern in society. So first one, absolute and relative social mobility. Here also upward and downward is possible. Absolute mobility refers to the actual change in the position of a person, whereas relative social mobility is judged in comparison with others. Okay, for example, if a person experiences absolute upward social mobility by gaining something, as in the case I've discussed with B, the other person like A experience a relative downward mobility without losing anything. Okay, so I hope you understood. You can connect it with that example. Now, objective and subjective social mobility. Objective social mobility is measured in terms of quantitative criteria like income, education, occupation, consumption, etc. Whereas subjective social mobility is understood in terms of an individual's own perception of social mobility. Okay, so one is quantitative criteria, objective. Here it's all about individual's perception. Similar to positivism and non-positivism, quantitative, qualitative methods we have discussed. On one side we are talking about objectivity, on the other side subjectivity. Subjectivity favors individuals' own understanding, perceptions, interpretations, right? Exactly the same here also. Now what about the next one? Structural and circulation social mobility. Structural social mobility is the mobility of people who are already part of occupational structure by virtue of change in technology, skill, education, policies, etc. People become socially mobile. On the other hand, there are people who are outside occupational structure. When such people enter into occupation, it refers to circulation social mobility. I hope you understood. Okay. Sponsored and contested mobility. Sponsored and contested mobility. So sponsored mobility is one which a person acquires due to some policy or support, right? For example, reservation or protective discrimination indicate functional social mobility. It is functional because it is kind of upliftment of the poor and backward section. Okay, that's why I have added this word functional social mobility. Then on the other hand, contested mobility is based on open competition. Now, I have given you a mains question here, compare social stratification. Now, compare is not required, social stratification and social mobility. So if you get this question, what you need to do is, first you need to write the introduction. In introduction, you will talk about what is differences and how difference become inequality. You remember, no? Differences will become inequality when some values are attached to it. I've told you this, okay? And what are the values? Preferability, rejection, desirability, undesirability, etc. Then inequality become the stratification when if it is patterned. So inequality becomes stratification if it is patterned. So we talked about stratification, and then we talk about the process of stratification, which involves differentiation, reward, ranking, evaluation, rewarding. So differentiation, ranking, evaluation, and rewarding. So you can explain that. Then here you're explaining that. Then you talk about what is social mobility and the relation between stratification and mobility, like open system and closed system, right? Then mobility as a product of stratification system, right? Because of stratification only the mobility is possible, right? Without stratification or stratas, mobility we cannot explain. Then you need to talk about different types of mobility. So this is how your answer should look like. You have the content with you. Even if the question is simply about social mobility, without writing social stratification, you cannot write social mobility. Why? Because social mobility is actually a product of social stratification. So briefly, you need to talk about social stratification also. So I hope you understood. Now, next, we will see this topic, avenues of social mobility, means sources of social mobility or causes of social mobility. These are very simple. In traditional society, what are the avenues? Avenues are very limited, I've told you. And the most common avenues are gaining political power through wars, success in business, inheritance of wealth, sponsorship by the king. In modern society, avenues are more. So you can see here political system, democratic society, representative form, everybody can contest election, can acquire power, and it is open to all. So there is a high chance of social mobility here in open society or in the modern society. Economic system, it is all based on skill-based occupation structure. If you have skill, nobody can stop you. Okay, whatever is there, if you have a skill, and you will always survive in whatever situation you are put in. You will be in a position to survive. Okay, so expansion in occupation, increase in economic activities, vast employment opportunities in government and private. Third one, education. So it is open to all, massification of education, okay, medium of acquiring skill and increased awareness. So then you can talk about enhanced choices. When you have education, you have more choices. Technology, constant improvement in technology leading to emergence of new specializations, okay, and that lead to saving of time. All these are part of social mobility. Culture, modernization of culture, so you have more access to everything. More freedom is given. Relaxation of rigid norms and values. More freedom is given, so women is getting better social mobility. Otherwise, women's job was a housewife. They should be confined to household activities. Earlier, the traditional society is now changing. Culture is changing. Modernization of culture is giving more freedom to the female, so they can come out, and that actually made them socially mobile. Okay. So now hindrances. What are the problems? Despite all these avenues, what are the problems in achieving mobility? Poverty is the main problem. So lack of resources, poor health, poor education, less choices. All these are common problems, and you can write it in a better way. Illiteracy, less awareness, low skill level, restricted choices. Cultural hindrances, like cultural biases towards particular occupation, like female, they are what are the cultural hindrances? Like the cultural bias towards a particular occupation, like nurses, teachers, etc. These should be female, right? Sexual division of labor. Lack of freedom, low preference for education, okay, stress on family values, religious restrictions. So although I have given you everything in bullet points here, in your exam, if it is a lengthy question, you should not write in bullet points. You should be writing in paragraph, okay? If it is 10 marker, after writing other things in paragraph, if you don't have time and space, then you write this in bullet point. If it is 20 mark, never ever write in bullet points. People will tell you to write in bullet points, you can put more points, etc. Rather than putting more points, put it in a better way, better perspective, better style is required. A sociological style is required in your answer. A sociologist touch should be there. You are not a professional sociologist, but I'm sure once you're done with my classes and the sociology classes completely, you will have that flavor of a sociologist for sure, at least. Okay. So can you see ever a sociologist writing in bullet points? Can you write an essay in bullet point? No, don't ever try to do that. If it is a long answer, always write in paragraphs and arrange it in very good paragraphs. Okay, writing is very important, and when we do the test series, I'll discuss that. Okay, we will discuss everything, we will correct everything. Whatever problem is there in your writing, you might have wrote some answers much before. Now you have started your preparation, so don't worry about your writing part. When it comes to your mains, when it comes to your test series, I'll take care of it in a beautiful way. Okay, don't worry about that. So we will stop it here. If you have any doubt, please feel free to call me. No problem. Okay, so see you guys. Thank you. So that's about the session. I hope you understood everything that we have discussed today. If you have any doubt in any of the videos that we have discussed so far, you can get in touch with me here. That's my Instagram ID. Okay, or you can join the Telegram channel. You will get all my videos over there. Everything is there. Or you can see here, this is the Telegram channel, or this is the Instagram ID. These two are my Facebook page. You can get in touch with me in any of this. If you want to learn economy with me, or history with me, or general studies, any subjects, you can, if you need regular classes, you can get in touch with me, or the online classes are available with Study IQ. You will get all those classes. Still, you will get my YouTube videos in this Telegram channel. Okay. So I hope you understood everything that we have discussed. So see you guys. Thank you.